Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I kind of wanted to give a bit of an update on how I'm using the GTD method, as well as kind of just a refresher, and again talking about the overview of the GTD method in David Allen's book. I've done a video of this in the past and how I implemented in my paper planner back then, and now I kind of just wanted to give an update as well as just refresh us on how the method works, especially for those who might be new. So I linked that old video up there. So the GTD method is a productivity system that was created by David Allen, and why I felt like I really needed this system and what it really helped me with was that I was always really good about writing things down. You know, I've always been like a planner, and I was good at writing lists in my planner or making reminders on my phone or writing it on my notepad. Even though I was good at writing it down, my mind still felt really cluttered. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, I was writing everything down, but I still felt like I had to remember things, and I just didn't feel like as organized as I thought I should be being a planner, right? And this system really helped me, and I'll kind of, as I walk you through, talk a little bit more about that. So David Allen's system comprises of these 5 key processes, I guess, or concepts, and that's 1, to capture, 2, to clarify, 3, to organize, 4, to review/reflect, and 5, to engage. And we'll talk about each of those. And before we get started, you can look at this flowchart that you can literally just Google, and it's just called the GTD flowchart. And it kind of talks about how to organize the stuff, and I'll talk about it in those 5 concepts. I don't want to just look at the chart, and flow through, because that's kind of boring. You guys can look this up, or I can link it down below. You can easily search it on Google, but I kind of want to show you how I actually implement it to discuss it and how I use it in my daily planning, because I think that'll just be a bit more helpful because I'm using live scenarios. So let's start with the first concept of capture. So when we talk about capture, we're really talking about all the stuff. So things like stuff as in ideas, reminders, appointments, future plans, things you want to have in the future, a wish list, anything that comes to mind is the stuff. And how we see it in the planner world is, let me just go to my GTD section here and go into my inbox. We see this as typically called the inbox or the brain dump section. And really it's just somewhere where you jot down everything that you can think of in your mind. Now, the way that David Allen talks about it is it's not just necessarily things that go in what you think of for your traditional planner. So it's not necessarily just your schedules or appointments or task lists. It can even be things like ideas, or it can be, a future destination you want to go to, future travel plans that you can't do right now. Any little thing that comes into your mind, you want to dump it somewhere and get it down on paper. And in this stage, you're not worried about completing it. You're not worried about thinking about what are the details of it. The only thing you need to do in the capture stage is literally capture, get it all out. And that doesn't mean you have to have one spot to capture everything. So that doesn't mean everything has to come into your planner inbox, right? Like for me, I have 2 young kids. I'm not always sitting in front of my planner. I can't possibly write everything directly in here. And if I was to give myself that objective, I would just not write it down because it's not convenient for me. For me though, I have several inboxes, but the key is you have to aggregate all of your tasks, ideas, things into one location. So for example, I have a spot in my planner, and that's my inbox page, but I also use reminders on my phone, and I do that because I have the Apple Watch, and it's easy to just call Siri on your Apple Watch and say, remind me tonight to blah, 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 blah. And then I check my reminders at the end of the night and I dump it into here. Alternatively, you could have a tray on your table, right? Or you can have some sort of filing system. You can have multiple inbox brain dump type locations. You have to make sure that you put everything down into one spot. And that's really key, because the reason I found why my brain was still feeling cluttered, even though I was good at making all these lists, is that I didn't have one central location. So your brain doesn't feel relaxed because it doesn't feel like your full complete list, because you don't. You have to remember all the locations where you put these random things on these random lists. So it's really important and key that you transfer everything into one location. So you can have multiple sources, transfer it to one spot. I would suggest that you don't have more than like 3 inboxes, because once you get too many, it gets too much of an administrative task to put them in one spot. And that leads to me to my first efficiency that I find with a digital planner is that when I use reminders, and that's probably one of the most used brain dump areas for me, because when I'm on the go, it's easy to just tell Siri to remind me instead of having to write it down somewhere. And when you're on your iPad already, it's great because I can just obviously go into my reminders app, and these are all the reminders that I had spoken to Siri and told her to remind me about. And what I can do is just go in here, and you can literally just copy a reminder, and then you can just go into your list, paste, and now I can move my reminder into my inbox. So what's great about this is if you use OneLook or you use Excel or you use OneNote, if there are other places that you brain dump that's already on your computer or your iPad, sorry about the focus here, it's great because you can just literally copy and paste it into your digital planner, whereas before in paper, I had to write everything by hand, right? So that's one of the key things that I've been loving about this is just being able to copy and paste into here. So that's the whole concept of capture, is just to capture and get everything down that's in your mind. So now let's move on and talk about clarify, step 2. So in step 2, clarify, now we're starting to talk about the what is it, okay? So in step 1, we took the stuff and we put it in the in. Now that it's in there, what is it? Now is where we're going to kind of clarify and organize those thoughts. So I think of clarify and organize, steps 2 and 3 kind of combined. And so the first thing to ask yourself when you're trying to clarify or organize your ideas, your thoughts, all the things that you wrote down is it actionable, right? That's a key question, because if it's not actionable, well, then there's just the trash. Why would you keep it if you don't need it at all and it was just a fleeting thought? Now you've thought about it for a second and you decided, oh, it's not relevant. It could be something that's already passed, an event you decided you're not going to, anything, right? Anything that's just not relevant, toss it in the trash, don't worry about it anymore. Okay, but then under not actionable, there's 2 other things that it could be. It could be something that you're thinking of doing someday. Not right now, but someday in the future. So here we're going to put it into a Sunday maybe section. And I'll show you kind of what that looks like in a planner form. Again, you don't have to use this exact planner, right? It's just a concept. It could be a section in your planner. So within my inbox, and this is, my GTD digital planner in my shop, and I own an Etsy shop, and that's why I created. But for you, again, you don't have to buy the planner. You could create your own. There's lots of tutorials on how to, or you could use it in a digital planner or even in your paper planner form, right? Or use a different planner and just add these sections and titles. So in my inbox, I have the is it actionable, is it not? If we talk about the not actionable, trash is trash, you throw it away. So if I go to my someday maybe, it's literally just a list. Another page in my planner. For you, just get a list or a blank piece of paper, write someday maybe, and it's just future things you're parking for the future. One thing that, again, I love about the digital planning is a lot of my someday maybes recently have been like destinations that I want to go to, right? And I haven't been able to go to because of COVID or whatever reasons. And what I've been loving doing is going into Safari here, but sometimes it's a picture that I see on a blog or on Instagram or whatever it is. And the great thing about having a digital planner is if it's like a location or a resort, so I just looked up Tahiti, for example, you can just take that Google image, split view your 2 screens, and literally copy it in. Like, isn't that amazing? And now this will be a physical reminder of that someday maybe thing that I wanted to do. And I just find this really helpful because I'm a very visual person, and being able to easily put in a picture of what I'm thinking of is awesome. And sometimes, even if it's like a big thing of text that you were reading about, it's nice to be able to just screenshot it and move it over instead of trying to write it all down like you had to in a paper planner. Okay, so that's the someday maybe. And then if I go back, so the other item in that it could be under not actionable is a reference item. So it's something that you might need for the future, like a password, like a date, like an ID of some sort, right? It's just something you want to think about in the future, and that you would want to put in your reference section. So if I click reference, it brings me to my reference section, but it can literally be just any section in your planner, or a filing system, or something where you're going to put reference materials. So in my planner, I just have an index here, and I am going to write out all of the items that I may want to keep track of in the future, and then I'll write the page that they're on. The great thing again here about digital planning is you can insert pages behind here. I mean, I'm using GoodNotes app, but with any other app, you can do this as well, like with Notability and things. You can insert pages between your digital planner pages, right? So for example, one of the things that I have in my reference is my kids' daycare meal plan. And I reference this throughout the month to plan my meal plans, because I don't want my meals to be the same as their daycare meal. And so I can just take a screenshot of that and add it into my planner. Alternatively, if it's something that you're reading, or if it's something you get through email, like, it's amazing because with digital planning, you can just take a screenshot. You don't have to write everything down. Plop it into one of most planners come with these extra, blank pages. So grid pages or blank pages or whatever, that where the sides are still hyperlinked. So you could just plop in your image and then copy this slide or this page, this PDF page, and insert it behind that reference section so that it's easily there and you don't have to write it all down. Like, I don't know about you, but these are just life-changing things that have that I have been able to enjoy with digital planning and the digital version of GTD method. So that really covers that non-actionable sections. Okay, so now what happens if it is a task or an event or an item or object or whatever that you wrote down is something that can be actionable? Okay, well here now you got to ask yourself a couple of questions again. The first one is the task, the item, the idea or whatever, is it something that takes 2 minutes or less to get done? And if it is, then just do it. And the reason is because instead of trying to migrate it somewhere else onto a different list, it's faster just to do it and cross it off because it's less than 2 minutes. So David Allen advises for those tasks, do it in 2 minutes. You have to take this with a grain of salt because you could have a whole host of 2-minute activities or 2-minute tasks or whatever. And if you do all of them, it could add up to 2 hours, and then you never get to a full project or what you need to do that day. So take it with a grain of salt, okay? But then if I go back, because I think it's easier to show you from there. So if it's something that isn't done in 2 minutes, then there's some other categories that it could be. So the first one under if it's actionable, and yes it is, and it's not a 2-minute thing that you can get done, is it something that's time specific? And if it's something that's time and date specific, you need to put it in your calendar. So what you would do is, that's what I love about digital planners, is it's hyperlinked so you could just click to where you want to go. So say it's an event that falls on, the 4th week of March. So I go into this is my schedule section, but everybody has a schedule section, or if you use Google Calendar or you use your planner, your whatever planner, just go into that day. So let's say it's March, the 4th week of March. Here's my 4th week. Let's just say it's on the Friday. I would write my task there or wherever I do my pre-planning. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So something that belongs on a specific day and time, you need to put it in your calendar, because when you're looking at your calendar, you get to that day, that's when you know you're going to do it. You're not going to do it. It's something that you can't do ahead of time, right? It's specific to that day. So the next thing under if it is actionable is you have to ask yourself, is it something that you're going to do, or is it something that you need to delegate to somebody else, or something that you're waiting on from something else that you can't control? So let's first talk about if it's something that you're going to do. If it's something that's for you, you have to ask yourself another question, and that's, is it a one-step task or is it multi-step? Okay, and I'll explain that. Sometimes we have a task such as fix the tire on your car. So you've jotted down all your ideas. One of them, or one of the things that pops into your mind that you need to do, is fix the car tire, let's say, or fix the car door. And you put that as your task there, right? And you have it just this one line, and for some reason it feels a bit daunting. It feels like this big thing that you just can't get done or you don't want to tackle. And sometimes likely it's because it's not truly just a one-step task. It's comprised of multiple steps. 1, you have to find a mechanic. 2, you need to call the mechanic. 3, you need to make an appointment for you to go there. 4, you go to the appointment and get it done, and then you can cross it off, right? So David Allen calls anything that has more than one step actually is classified as a project. And so when we think of projects, we always think of, renovating the house, or, I don't know, cleaning out your 3 closets, or, redoing a room in your house, or I don't know why everything pertains to a house. I can't think of another project. Oh, plan a party or something, right? But he's saying anything that's actually over one step is a project, because it has more things to do than just the one line that you wrote there, right? And so what you would do with those is you would put it in your project section. So for me, I want to create my own website. And so, this was one of my project pages for that. And then I just have some details on it once I decide to do it. So the great thing about Digital Planner is you can add in whatever project inserts that help you. For me, in my planner, I've just included these 2 because I thought this was a good high-level one, and then this is kind of for details, and I can copy and paste this as many times as you want and include as many project pages as you want, because sometimes real projects can get big and you can't keep them all in your planner. But in a digital planner, you can keep as many pages as you need and want, right? So my caveat to this is sometimes you don't need this huge thing and this whole section on projects for simple tasks such as getting your car door fixed. So in that scenario, what you would do is in your inbox, you can migrate it to your next actions, and we'll talk about what that is. But instead of writing it out as one line, let me go here, next actions. So instead of writing it as the one line, just break out your steps. So research mechanic, call mechanic, make an appointment, go to the appointment. It would be 4 steps in your next actions list, instead of having to put it in your projects section. And what your next actions list is the list of tasks that are assigned to yourself that is only one step. So then it becomes much easier, because when you're looking at each of these steps, it feels much quicker and simpler because it's only the one item that you're doing. It's not, a bunch of steps bundled into what seems like one line or, one quick task to do. And it'll feel it'll feel a lot less daunting. Again, another great thing that I've been loving about the digital planner versus paper is that instead of, having to write it out, I can just, again, use the lasso tool, and you can just click lasso in your handwriting. I can copy what I want to lasso or what I want to copy. Click copy. Then go to my next actions and paste it here. Isn't that so much better than having to migrate it by writing it down to each of those lists? I would hate doing that in a physical planner, and a lot of time keep a lot of things just on my inbox and not want to, clarify and organize because I didn't want to move it over. And yeah, so that's been a big game changer. So let's talk about now the next actions. When you're doing the next actions, after you've moved over everything that's these one-step tasks for yourself, you then need to classify it by the tool or the circumstance that you're in. And let me further explain that. So for example, there's going to be tasks that strictly you need to do at home. There's going to be the tasks that you need to do on your computer. There's going to be tasks that are more errand-like tasks that you do outside, and there's going to be tasks that you do, for example, on your phone. So you want to bundle these tasks together. And the reason why is you could have some tasks related to everything when you're outside the house. For example, going to the post office. You need to drop off a package. Say you need to go to the store and return something. These are all kind of errand things. Say you need to stop at the grocery store. And what you would do is put a little dot in that errand section. And the reason why you want to do that is when you're out, you don't want to have to scan all of your tasks and see, oh, is there anything else that I need to do at the post office? Is there anything else that I need to do out? If you have it already documented that way, you can just quickly scan down the list and you'll know exactly what you need while you're out. Now, the next best thing about having a digital planner is it's synced across your devices, right? Like nobody leaves the house without their phone, at least nobody that I really know, or you don't mean to leave it without your phone, right? But sometimes when you go out, you forget to bring your planner, or like you think you're just running a quick errand and you don't take your planner, right? And so what's amazing is having the Good Notes app. I can just pull it up on my phone and I have my task list and my to-do list everywhere I go. So when I'm out running an errand, I can quickly scan down the list and say, oh, what else do I need to get done here? The other thing is, for example, you're sitting in front of your computer. Well, just scan down the list and do everything you need to do on your computer. And it's much more efficient because you're already in that spot, or you already have that tool with you, and you can just quickly go through your list and do them all at once. Does that make sense? I thought like when he came up with that, it was like, oh my gosh, that's genius. And these are the categories I had put in the planner because I think it pertains to most people. Maybe planner doesn't necessarily. I just felt like all of us planner lovers kind of might want to have a planner section. But if you don't need it, the great thing about doing it on digital is that you could just erase it out or screenshot a white piece and put it over top. So let me show you. So for example, you could just take a pen and use a white pen and just color over it like a whiteout pen, and cross whatever section out, title out you want, and rewrite it. That's why in the digital planner, my digital planner, I don't have like another page where it's like, all blank. Whereas in my paper planning or my printables, I do include the insert where it's all blank, so you could choose your own headers. But in here, you don't need to because there's so many ways to white that out. You can also take a screenshot of a blank sheet, copy, paste, and then cover whatever titles and then write on top of it. So there's lots of ways. It's really easy, to cover these headings, and that pertains to any kind of headings in the planner. Okay, so that's what you do in, So that's what you do in your next action section. So next, let's go back and talk about what you would do if it's a task that you're assigned to somebody else or you're waiting on from someone else. So if it's something that you've assigned to somebody else or you're waiting on, like something you bought online, you would have a different section for that. So here I have my waiting on section. For me, I put a lot of things like, orders and stuff online that I'm waiting on. But of course, you could also have things that you've assigned tasks to your husband, assign tasks to your kids, to your colleagues, or whatever. And you want to keep track of these because it's not something that you can do. The only thing you can do is follow up. Otherwise, you have to wait. So you would put those here. And I just added, a couple of other headers to say, okay, what's the date that I assigned it so that I know when I can go and follow up. And then as well, if I did follow-ups, when I did that. And I can also put some notes here to say what's the status. So that's your other section of waiting on. So between those, what I find really cool is that it really captures everything. Between these various sections under the actionable or not actionable, you really do get the guidance that you need to be able to move your tasks into one of these sections because it covers it all. I don't know, something about that was just mind-blowing to me that it could cover everything in these, specific sections that he's called out. Okay, so that is what happens in your clarify and organize. You're organizing and clarifying each of your tasks, ideas, all of these things that you jotted down into these sections that are now easy to act upon. So that's clarify and organize. And before we move on to review and reflect, I just want to show you how I then actually include these in my weekly and daily planning. So in my weekly and daily section, so if I go to my schedule and let's just choose the week of March 5th because this is a blank week. So this is an undated planner, but it includes all of the weeks and all of the days of the week. You just have to put April, whatever, or March, whatever. But if you go to its monthly, it is within the March monthly, if that makes any sense. If not, just completely ignore what I said. So basically within my weekly, what I would do is I have these two lists. One is called next actions, one is waiting on, okay? Because those are really the two main sections that is something that, I want to watch out for week to week. So for example, like someday maybe, you don't need to look at that every single day, right? Your inbox, you technically should have moved it onto your individual lists. And your reference, obviously you don't need that. So these are the two main lists that you would need week to week. So again, of course, this is my GTD planner, so it already has those titles, but you could easily just in, a task list area, write down the header, next actions, and waiting on, like it serves the exact same purpose, right? So what I would do is then I would go into my GTD section. So I would go back here at the beginning of the week and I would migrate all the next action items that I think that I'm going to do that week or be able to do that week. And I just copy and paste. Again, this is where like the digital is so key because in a paper planner, like you have to copy each one over to the week and it's so annoying. But here, you just literally copy and paste it and it's like, it's no work, right? So I would copy those items into my next actions. Sorry, I should go to a blank one. So I would copy it into my next actions. Then the things that I expect to receive that week or the things that I've asked people to do that I need an answer for that week, I will put it into my weekly here so that I can keep an eye on it, right? And so yeah, I like to migrate it into my weekly. And of course, I also use dailies. And you can also allocate that to a specific day or add it to a specific day. But I just find that gets a bit too detailed because usually like my next actions do not pertain to a specific day, right? If it had to be done on that day, it would have been put into schedule already at the beginning of our process. Guys get what I mean? But you can do that, of course, as well. So that's how I actually action those items each week. So next, let's move over to how I would do the weekly review. So how I do my review, and you can do it however, but really the concept is that at the end of the week or at the end of the month that you go through your lists and you should keep everything on your inbox list because this will be your central list and one-stop shop that you can go to and check through and just say, are these things still relevant? Do I still need to do it? And if it's done, cross them out. If you don't need it anymore, you don't obviously cross it out as well. And yeah, so that's what you should do with your weekly review. And the reason why you want to make sure that you do that is, of course, if you don't, then you're going to have this buildup of stuff and you're not actioning it again. And the other review that I like to do is a monthly review. And you can do a weekly review, and there's definitely people who also do weekly reviews. For me, I just find weekly reviews, it's too often. I don't have the time for it. So in my planner, I didn't add that. But for example, in each of my monthlies, I have a section called review, and it's just the monthly review. And in here, I can just jot down kind of what went well that month, what didn't go well, what are the things that I want to focus on, goals, reviewing my plan. It can be anything, basically. But that's what I like to do kind of on a monthly visit. On a monthly basis to revisit my planners. And so that is really the review and the reflect. And then the last step of engaging is really just going and doing it. And I kind of talked about that within my schedule and how I do that each month. So yeah, that at a high level is basically the GTD method. And again, don't crucify me. I really suggest that if this walkthrough, sparked an interest, that you go and listen to his audiobook if you don't have time to read or you don't love to read, or get his book, because I am not an expert and you may also interpret what he says in a different way and find some great ideas that'll help you that I didn't explain to you. Now, I'm sorry, the lighting has gotten quite dark. This video has taken a while and it's now dark outside, so hopefully that doesn't bother you. If you guys love this video, love GTD, please consider subscribing, because there will be a lot more GTD content coming out, as well as the different ways I plan on both my digital planner, of course paper planners, because I can't just get rid of my paper planners, you know that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.